Hey, we're live. Welcome to Weird After School. I moved away from my desk for a change of scenery, and I left my Weird After School thing back at the desk, so you don't get to see it right now. But I just told you that we're Weird After School, and you're watching me, the weird teacher. So you know that we're Weird After School. You have to trust me. We don't have to do something fancy like have a sign fly in. I'm sitting over here just for a change of pace. I'm sitting on a wobble stool, which is why you might see me doing this, which is probably really distracting, so I will try not to do that too much. Interesting day today, interesting week. The year's coming to a close very, very quickly, and there's so much to do and so little time, and yet I'm still adding things to my plate because I am the smartest teacher in the world. Yes, I'm wearing suspenders today. I'm rocking the suspenders. You see? Yeah, what's up? Teachers are like, what's going on? Why are you dressed up? Because I feel like dressing up. I feel like dressing nice. I'm not wearing a tie, though, because I have this giant, stupid neck, and that's super uncomfortable. I have a stupid neck. That's what I just said. Stupid neck. Professional rider. So let's start with a story. One of my kids is reading. I tweeted this. One of my kids is reading A Wrinkle in Time, and she's like just sitting quietly across the room reading to herself, and out of nowhere she goes, "That's a lie." It must have been a good line if it makes you say something out loud. What's a lie? And she goes, "The book just said the more a man knows, the less he talks." That's a lie. It's like, okay. I'm not going to argue with you. Uh, how do you know? Because you're a fifth grader. How do you know? And she's like, well, this kid, she names another student in our class, he's really smart and he talks all the time. So, gentlemen, fifth graders are onto us. And they know. And I'm curious to know if she knows that the inverse is still true. The less a man knows, the more he talks. So hopefully she figures that one out soon. That'll make her pretty smart. Says the guy who does a little mini reflection thing where he just talks and talks and talks and he writes thousands of words a week. Yeah. But they're good words. I'm different. Anyway, really instructive day today. My kids went into the makerspace, but not to make. One of the first grade teachers reached out to me last week, and she said, "Can you have my kids meet your kids in the makerspace, and your kids can be experts and show my kids around so they can learn what to do, and I can learn what to do?" And I said, "Yes, of course, I would love that. That sounds super cool." She said, "Great, I want them to learn spheros and drones and the green screen and 3 other things that we have in the makerspace." And I said, "Okay, we can do that." So today I grouped my kids into those 6 groups because some of them are better at spheros, some of them are better at drones, some of them are really good at green screen. So I grouped them, and then we went in there for a few minutes and I had them write lesson plans, and that's what I told them. Because I'm very explicit with my class. I said, we're going to go in there and you're going to write lesson plans. You are not going to build. You're not going to work on something for yourself. You are going to figure out, how can I teach this to a first grader? And I told them, the goal here is that they can do this on their own by the time you're done. So when they're done with you, they should be able to find an image, open Doink, point it at Doink, point it at the green screen, get it all working, be able to make a picture, be able to make a video. They should be able to do all of those things. They should be able to grab a Sphero and an iPad. They should be able to connect those 2 things, and start driving it. And my kids said, okay, they understood. And so they started building lesson plans. And the other thing I told them was, they cannot be watching you work. They're not going to learn that way. You guys don't learn that way. We do a lot where I don't talk and you talk, or where I don't. Yeah, we do a lot where I don't talk and you talk, and you puzzle things out, and you get stuff wrong. So that's what I want you to be doing with them. And they said, okay. And they wrote little lesson plans, a real short amount of time. And then after lunch, we went in there with the first graders, and the first grader, we had 6 groups, and each of my groups had 4 or 5 kids in it, and her class is smaller. So they were like groups of 3, groups of 2, groups of 4, kind of broken up a little bit differently. And they cycled through my kids, and we spent a whole hour in there. There were 6 groups, and we did 10 minutes per group. And they were amazing. My kids did such a good job. They were so patient, and their plan and their lessons and the way they experimented and the way they taught was really, really cool. It was fun to watch them puzzle stuff out with the littles, and it was fun to watch the first grade teacher walk around and be like, oh, wow, they can do this, and wow, they can do that. I didn't know you could do that with the green screen, and so that's how that works. And today a first grader flew a parrot drone, and first graders drove Spheros. Some of them, I didn't tell them to do this. My kids that had the Spheros not only had them using the Sphero app, but they also had them using Tickle. So first graders were block coding the Sphero to do stuff, which was great. And when we started, I kind of introduced everything. I said, this is what you guys are going to do, when I was talking to the first graders. And I said, I want you to know you're going to get stuff wrong. And my kids know that you're going to get stuff wrong. And I want you to get stuff wrong. I want you to go try and make a mistake. And that's why my 5th graders are here, to kind of help you when you make a mistake. They're not here to do for you. They're not here to hold your hand, but they're here to help you out and give you tips. Because I didn't want the first graders to be scared of making mistakes. I honestly have never taught first grade, so I'm not around that age group very much. So I don't know, and it depends on like the attitude that the teacher has set up for the last however many months. I don't know how comfortable 6-year-olds are with failing, and those kind of struggles. But they were great. My kids did such a good job. I'm really proud. And then we came back in, and we did a little reflection. I said, all right, I want you to talk to your friends about what you learned about the device that you were using, because when you're teaching, you often learn more about a device. And I also want you to talk to your friends about what you learned about teaching. And they started talking, and there was some pretty good conversations going on. And then I said, okay, now share out. Let's talk what you guys talked about. And a lot of them, the first couple things that they mentioned were, well, we were using the circuit draw, and it was hard because we've never used those. We haven't used those too much, and I figured out all kinds of stuff that we can do with it. And some of the kids we have Legos that have engines in them and stuff, so they were like, we figured out how to make the Legos work better. So by teaching, and they realized, and they made it explicit, by teaching we learned how to do things and how to do things better. I was like, that's great. And like I said, they did it 6 times. So I told them, you're middle school teachers, you're high school teachers now. By the 5th or 6th time, were you really, really good at it? And they said, yeah, we kind of changed what we'd done. I said, okay, what else did you learn? And they said, teaching is hard. And I went, really? They said, yeah, it was really hard just to keep talking about it and to make sure they understood it. And it wasn't like they weren't bad kids. They said there was a bunch of them like, we thought the first graders would be like off the wall or not paying attention or not terribly interested. And they were great. They were really nice, and they were on task, and like they shared. They were all really surprised because they said, we only have so many drones, so not all of them got to use the drone at the same time, and we didn't know like if they would have trouble with that, but they like watched, and they were polite and they were nice. And I said, well, make sure you tell their teacher that. And yeah, but they kept coming back to teaching is hard. This is a hard thing that you do. It was hard to to keep them interested, and it was hard to come up with ways to do it, and it was hard to come up with other ways to explain it to them when they were confused. But it was a lot of fun too. I was like, really? That's good to know. And then one of them was like, Happy Teacher Appreciation Week. I said, thank you. So that was honestly unintentional that it happened during Teacher Appreciation Week. I didn't set out for my class to learn what it's like to be a teacher. And that wasn't part of the goal. Primarily the goal was teach first graders how to use our stuff so that they can be successful in the makerspace. But the ancillary, that's not the word that I want, supplemental things that they learned, like what teaching is like and how to be a good teacher, were great. It was really cool to see them gain a little bit of empathy and a little bit more understanding for what goes into trying to get somebody to learn something. And maybe it created a few teachers today, which would be really neat. It would be exciting. So that was fun. It's been a busy week, you guys. Happy Cinco de Mayo. I'm not going to do anything else with that. Happy Star Wars Day. Yay. I didn't do as much with Cinco de Mayo as I should have. I probably should have done more. But time is short. Time is of the essence, and we don't have a whole lot of time. And that's a terrible excuse. Maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow, Cinco de Mayo. Tomorrow's Crazy Hat Day. Not because of Cinco de Mayo. I'm not saying, sombrero, it's a crazy hat day. The whole school filled up the bucket, so they got a fun day, and the powers that be chose Crazy Hat Day. So tomorrow's Crazy Hat Day, so I got to figure out a crazy hat. My original plan was we would go into the makerspace and I would do like a challenge. You have a half hour, boop, make a crazy hat. But we didn't have time to do that today. Don't go anywhere. You still there? Okay. So I tweeted about this yesterday. I had just read my kids Where the Red Fern Grows. We finished it, and we cried because it's sad. And then we had a talk about it because they want to know what's our next book. What's our next book? And I said, well, let's think about what we've read. And we've read Matilda, which is by Roald Dahl, and we've read Coraline, which is by Neil Gaiman, and then we read Tale of Despereaux by Katie Camillo. Probably said her name wrong. And then The Giver by Lois Lowry, and then Redfern by Wilson Rawls. So I said, so there's some women in there. We got Kate and we got Lois. And this was in my head. We haven't had any characters of color like at all. So I need to do that. We need to figure that out. So I went to Twitter and asked, and I didn't get any responses, probably because everybody was teaching when I asked. So I went to my librarian and I said, all right, we just read Redfern. And so I don't want a book that's depressing. I don't want a book where people die or dogs die, because I'm tired of reading sad books. I want a book with a main character of color, and I want a book written, preferably by a woman, of color. I want a book written by a person of color, preferably a woman. So that was my categories, and I figured she would be like, I'm not sure. Well, give me some time. And I gave her those three things, and she went, have you read One Crazy Summer yet? Like that. Librarians are magic. And I said, no. And she said, it's right there. Grab it. Take it. So I'm reading my kids One Crazy Summer by Rita Williams Garcia, and we're only a chapter in. And so far it's really interesting. It's really good. And I have a couple of students of color, and one of them was like, we haven't read any books with black characters. So I'm glad we're reading this. I said, good. I'm glad. I'm glad you're glad. It's kind of why we're doing it. And I'm sorry that we haven't read enough. That's on me. We got to do more of that. because there's so many books that I want to read to you. And I'm excited because all of the other books I'd read before, and this one I haven't read. So it's going to be one of those books where I get to discover as they discover. And it says, the back of the book says, heartbreaking and funny. So I hope the dog doesn't die, because that happens sometimes. But it's in 1968 California, so it's probably heartbreaking because it's going to get kind of racist. The book's not going to get racist. It's going to deal with racial issues and probably deal with racist, which will be fun. Means we're going to have a lot of conversations about it. So that's probably the heartbreaking part. Hopefully nobody dies, because frankly I'm tired of reading books where characters die. Why? Children's book authors. Why? Why are you killing the dog? Huh? Why are you killing the best friend? Don't. Stop it. Stop it. You're so depressing. Children's books are so much more depressing than adult books. Knock it off. Captain America comes out today. I'm very excited. I'm going to go see it on Saturday, I think. I'm so excited. And as one last note, happy Teacher Appreciation Week. You hear it a million times, we don't get appreciated enough, and that's true. But as a teacher, I love other teachers. Teachers I don't agree with, teachers who teach differently than me. You are still in this. We're still in this together, and that's the most important thing. You're getting it did, and that's the most important thing. You're getting it done. You're getting it done differently than I am, and I don't care. You're working hard. It's hard to do this job and not work hard. So I appreciate you, and take some time off. All right, I'll see you later.